All right, here we are. It's 8 a.m. If we haven't met, my name's Jonathan. I work on the onboarding team here with Benzinga Pro, and I'm excited to go over some of the tools with all of you this morning. Also, I am recording this session, so I'll be sending that out a little bit after this in case you miss anything. Now, over the next hour, I'm hoping to just touch base on each of these tools that you see on the left side of my screen with newsfeed at the top and then chat at the bottom. And as I said before, feel free to, interject with questions along the way. I definitely want to make sure that we can show how to apply these tools to your trading strategy. Now, what we have right here in front of us is actually my favorite way to start the day. And we're here in real time in the pre market. And you see on the left hand side, we have our movers tool, which is very simply a scanner for the biggest gainers and losers within a certain time period. On the right hand side, we have the details tool, which is the best place to gather all the information in one spot on a screen. So here you'll see I have gainers and losers. It's set to the pre-market session and the period is set to session. So if I wanted that to be a shorter time period, I could set it to 15 minutes, to see what's moving right now or something like that. I could also narrow it down by sector with this drop down menu or click and drag these bars to limit it by market cap or price per share. Or I could click on custom if I don't see the thresholds I want on those slider bars. And now you can see here at the bottom that is comparing the price from yesterday at 4 p.m. at the close to today at 8:01 a.m. right now. I'm getting some feedback, so I'm just putting a couple people on mute temporarily. Feel free to unmute yourselves if you have a question later. Now that I have my settings just how I want them, I can click on this blue bar at the top to collapse those filters, and now I can see more of those results. And it's pretty quick and simple to just click through these, and then you'll notice how that changed the company on the right side of my screen. So I've got the price quote there at the top. Why is it moving? It tells me right away from our news desk. It says their shares are trading higher after the company announced an independent expert panel unanimously concluded there is no evidence of liver injury in the phase 2B NASH study of how whatever you say that product is. The panel supported reinitiating development of the product. So as we can see here, if I click on the well, this is showing yesterday's intraday chart. I'm going to switch over to this chart tab, and then we can see the after hours trading that happened yesterday. I'm switching to the 5-minute chart. Look at how that took off right after the close yesterday. So that's just beautiful chart if you were there to take advantage of that. And I'm going to switch over to the news here, and let's see what happened before all of these upgrades this morning. We can see that the real action took place as a result of this press release at 4:01 p.m. yesterday. You see it right at the top here. Independent expert panel concludes yada yada. And then we've got SEC filings and earnings release here. That's what our earnings headlines look like with the key data points there. And notice how that's highlighted or not, that's tagged with this earnings tag. So you want to pay attention to those tags. If the same types of news come up again and again, I mean, everybody knows about earnings, but you'll see a few others here that you want to continue to pay attention to. So yeah, if you're watching the movers tool, you could have also been watching it after hours yesterday, and you still would have seen this. Whether it was after hours yesterday or pre-market today, and then you would have seen, wow, this is taking off. Maybe I want to take a look at it, and then you would have seen those earnings results as well as the press release. All right, let's take a look at a couple more here. If I wanted to, I could also click on add to watch list and say movers. And so now that's a part of my movers watch list, so I can continue to get updates on that throughout the day. All right, what's going on with, okay, I'm switching to pre-market again, HSDT here. So here's a classic biotech example, an FDA related headline. So you'll see that the press release came out at 7:05 this morning from Globe Newswire. You can read that. And this press release is actually tagged. Sometimes our algos will tag the press releases themselves. So take a look at that. It's tagged with healthcare. So remember that for later. We want those healthcare related headlines, assuming you trade, assuming that fits into your trading plan. And then we have 7 minutes later. Sorry if you can hear the background noise. My kids are yelling upstairs. We have this FDA related headline where it says they granted this device breakthrough designation for treatment of gait deficits due to symptoms of multiple sclerosis. And if we scroll down here, what do we have here? This is tagged with biotech and FDA. And those are subcategories underneath general and news. So just put that in your back pocket. And you'll see time and time again, if you can do this two ways, right? So right now, we're looking at really quick in the pre-market, what's moving either right now or since yesterday's close. Alternatively, what we'll look at in a moment is how do I go straight to the source? Just set up these alerts on my news feed so that I'll never miss out on one of these moves again. And then we'll just do one more here for good measure. This is a negative catalyst. So I think you can see now just how volatile some of these smaller price per share biotech stocks can be. And this is an example of a negative catalyst. So we see shares were actually halted yesterday. So my guess is that something came out yesterday. But then we see the SEC filing this morning. And it looks like this is tagged with biotech for basically they did not demonstrate a statistically significant effect on the primary endpoint of NASH resolution without a worsening of fibrosis. So if it goes well, it can go way up. If not, it can shoot way down. And I'm just kind of curious here when that really was affected. Sorry, my chart just went a little wonky there. So yeah, it looks like, so you can see here on the chart. And by the way, since we're taking a look at this chart, if I ever wanted to add indicators on this chart underneath the details tool, I could click on indicators and I could add something like moving average, or I could add maybe RSI. And
Where's
so it's
the
kind of hard to
indicator
read.
button?
Sorry, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Where's the indicator button? I don't see it on mine.
It's on top of the chart. Now, are you on the chart tab? Because it's not this chart, it's not the overview chart. You have to click on the chart tab to get more of the comprehensive
Okay.
trading view
There
chart.
it is. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. And then to get these different time frames, there's a little caret next to D for day, and that's where if you star these time frames, then they'll kind of be locked at the top there. And so, and then you'll find these indicators on the left-hand side here. So if RSI is hard for me to read, I can click on this gear symbol. Maybe I'll just make that darker and see if that's easier for me to read. And then up here at the top, I could go to the moving average. And let's say I want the 200 day instead of the 9 or the 200 period. Just type in 200 here. And I'll also go to style. And let's just make that yellow. So that's kind of how you would use these different indicators. One more thing to check here, you can also differentiate if you want to between like extended hours trading and regular hours by clicking on this gear symbol in the upper right corner. And so then I just go to time zone and sessions. and then select session breaks. And so now you can see the difference there for after, between regular trading yesterday and then after hours and pre-market trading today. So, and then another couple things on the details tool here. We saw how you can look at just all the news for a company. We also have the calendar tab, which is very similar to the calendar tool, but just for that company. And so like here, we've got all the analyst ratings for GNFT. This looks like it doesn't have a ton of information on the company, or you could click into like a conference call. And then financials, peer companies to do further research in that area, and then key data points on the company. So just to recap here, with the movers and details workspace, you can do this for finding news that really moves the price of a stock and just training yourself on how to trade off of the news. Or if you set it to a shorter time period, it'll kind of alert you. Maybe you missed a news item, it's starting to take off, but for lots of these, if you catch it in those first 15 minutes, or even it updates every minute. So even in those first 5 minutes, there can still be a lot of room to run there, depending on your trading plan. Okay, so that being said, let's go over to the news feed. And we're going to practice filtering by some of these news categories that we just identified. A lot of them had to do with biotech. I'll show you a few others as well. And so you see categories here. It has that little tag symbol right underneath the search bar. And then here's a whole list of categories you can choose from. Now, if you're ever looking for analyst ratings, they're right here. I usually keep those off of my short list just because there's so many of them. And I personally like to use our calendar tool. But if you ever wanted upgrades or initiations or analyst color, it's right here. So then underneath general, that's where you've got biotech and healthcare. That came up this morning. And notice how I highlighted these. And you can do that through this colored bar on the right-hand side. Just click and drag this, and that'll change the color that it shows up in your news feed. And I just made them the same color because they're related topics. And then I also check hot. Those are some of the biggest stories of the day. I don't want to miss out on those. I'm going to include mergers and acquisitions under M&A, very common catalyst that'll move stocks. And then underneath news here, notice how I did not check this box because I don't want all of these. I want asset sales and contracts for influx of cash or expected revenue. FDA, again, for those biotech or pharma stocks. Offerings, usually a negative catalyst, diluting shares, and rumors. There's some other good ones in here, so keep this in mind, the news category. If you want to set up an earnings workspace, you would find earnings and guidance right here. Also, there's econ numbers and global, if you have more of a global macro need for news, things like that. I'll just throw in like IPOs, insider trades, legal, management. Those can be good too. So I click done here. It's a much more colorful feed because I narrowed it down. I got rid of all the other noise, and this is a lot easier for me to read because I know what to expect. So it looks like we've got some IPO offering news. We've got this contract for KBR here. And then you'll see some of these biotech headlines start to hit up here. Now, one more thing to pay attention to, actually a couple of things here. See this down arrow? That's a sentiment indicator. So that's just like a little nudge from our news desk saying, hey, you might want to pay attention to this because this is more likely to negatively or positively impact the price of that stock. And that can be 6 levels of sentiment from 3 up arrows to 3 down arrows. So you'll see those on some of the headlines. Also, when it says +1 or +23 or +55, that just means additional companies are mentioned in that headline or that article. So here we've got Z and ZG. It looks like just 2 different versions of Zillow assets. So just something to keep in mind there. Now, if I want to set alerts for some of these categories, I can click on this bell symbol in the far upper right corner. And then let's say I want to know about any of those FDA related items. Here's FDA, and I can just select from this drop down from any of these sound effects that will play through my computer speakers for every new headline in that category. Or I could check this box on the right hand side if I wanted real-time email alerts for each new headline in that category. So this is really, I mean, this is gold right here, guys. If you have these filters on, you could also click on these desktop notifications, so you get a nice little pop-up on your screen if you're looking at another tool or your brokerage or whatever. Now, there's some other good ways to narrow down your newsfeed. I'm gonna just go ahead and open up a second newsfeed here. So notice how you can look at it side by side. You have the unfiltered newsfeed on the right-hand side, and then you have the category newsfeed on your left-hand side. Now, I'm sure many of you have watch lists. Like I showed you how to add companies to your watch list within the details tool. Maybe you're going through here, or I'll show you another trick in a minute, but I'll skip that for now. Now you'll notice there is a watch list filter here. So I can click on watch list, select movers. So here are all of the companies that I have already added to my movers watch list. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. But let's say I only want news on those companies. I just check that box, I click done, and I'm only getting news on those companies. Now, I'm gonna go to sources here because the default sources are Benzinga signals and Benzinga wire. So signals are automated unusual activity alerts, things like price spikes, unusual option activity, block trades, etc. Benzinga wire is our curated news feed. But you saw that sometimes the news comes out first on press releases or SEC filings. So if you're only watching a specific watch list, you might have the bandwidth to include press releases and SEC filings. I always recommend to use these when it's more narrowed down because we get thousands of each of those sources each day. And then you'll notice there's some additional sources here. Our dev team is actually adding about 7 new sources a week right now. It's a big quarterly goal for us. So you'll see additional options here over the next few weeks. So if I click done, in fact, I'm gonna, well, that's highlighted in brown. Let's make press releases some other color. I'll just make that blue for now. I click done. And you'll see that if I scroll down here, I'll just get rid of this other news feed for now. You got all the SEC filings. And then I still have that filtering as well for the categories. And then here's some press releases as well. So that way I won't miss any news on my watch list. That's a great way to do it. Or instead of a watch list, I can get rid of that. Maybe I only trade one sector. I just click on sectors. And let's say I'm just trading energy. I click on energy, done, boom, I'm good to go. And then lastly here, just to set up a quick earnings feed, I'm going to go back to categories and then go to news, select earnings and guidance. Notice how under sources here, I still have press releases. I'll get rid of SEC filings for now. Click done. And now here is my live earnings feed. And I'm going to open up on the right side of my screen my calendar tool. And there is a table format of the earnings for today. So I'm going to click on columns, get rid of some of these columns that I don't need. So now I just have the symbol, EPS, and the surprises. I'll add importance too. That's kind of interesting. Let's see what's going on with importance. So yeah, that's kind of fun to use the importance level if you're just looking for what other people might be looking at. Or I could add a filter. I could click on filters and then maybe look for surprise percent EPS greater than 0 and look at all that green right there that shows up. So you can have your live feed with all of the earnings information on one side, and then your earnings calendar filtering for specific types of situations on the right side of your screen. This is a great 1-2 punch for earnings season. Last thing here, I mentioned some people are just looking for that major market moving news, or maybe you only trade indices or something like that. There's a couple ways you can handle that. I have a watch list for indices. You'll notice here I just have SPY, USO, and GLD if you want to track like oil and gold. But SPY is what's going to cover most of those major market moving news items. So if I click done here, you'll see, you've got the coronavirus related things, international relations, any White House items would be tagged with a SPY there. And you also have like FXI for China, things like that. So that's another great way to filter your newsfeed. All right, we're going to move on to the watch list here, but I just want to pause for questions as there's a lot of content here. Any questions on the newsfeed before we move on?
I have a quick question. Could you show that last thing you just showed about adding SPY to a watch list? Or they show you go to the news feed and do that? Or
Right. So I selected a previously built watch list. So I'll show you how to do that right now. Alternatively, you could always just type in the SPY directly on here. And so now you have all the SPY news.
okay.
However, if this is quicker for you, so you can just check a box, you just open up your watch list tool here.
I don't have the indices on my watch list. It's just blank.
You said your watch list is blank?
Yeah, I have to probably create the indices watch list.
Exactly. So you're going to click on this plus button here to create a new watch list. And, Series 2, create watch list. And then you can just type them in manually, or you could copy and paste them from another source like a CSV. And then just as you type them in there and press enter, they'll populate here at the bottom.
Okay.
And then, like, let's say you accidentally add something you don't want. Like I added Apple here. I just right click on that and say remove from this watch list to get rid of it.
Okay.
Now, I was talking earlier about how you can set alerts for your watch list, or, it's a great way to stay up to date on those companies throughout the day. You would find alerts right here inside of the watch list tool. So I click on this, I'm setting alerts only for this watch list.
Gotcha.
There's multiple alerts you can set from multiple watch lists, and you select from any of these sound effects you want, and those will play every time there's a new headline for that symbol, as well as you could get real-time email alerts either for Benzinga Wire, press releases, or SEC filings, or you could just get a summary before and after the trading day.
Okay, that's cool.
And since we're on here, you could rename the watch list, download it to a CSV, create a new watch list, delete it, and right here, this is how you would switch between your various watch lists. And I'll just delete this one for now. And it goes back to my movers watch list. So great question. And we just covered a whole nother tool. So pretty simple, right? The real power here is, other than just tracking the prices throughout the day, you can get those alerts or filter your news feed, calendar, or signals tools by that watch list. Any other questions on the news feed? If not, no worries. We'll just a couple things here. There is the audio squawk, which is a subset of news items throughout the day. Only the most important news through your computer speaker. And Charlie's a market veteran of 20 years, so he knows exactly what to look for, whether it's in press releases, SEC filings, other news sites. So if I click on play here, it'll say connected, waiting for audio. And as soon as he sees something, it'll say connected, receiving audio, and that will broadcast through my computer speaker. So very, very useful. Some people buy the whole platform just for access to the squawk. Another thing here is the chat. So it's a great way to talk with other traders throughout the day. The Benzinga Pro Lounge, you can only post in there if you're a subscriber. We're getting too many like newbie questions, diluting to actionable news content in there. But you'll see that Charles Gross, he's an admin. That's the same Charlie who does a squawk, as well as we have some great traders in our chat community. So like V Sandman here, pay attention to him. He's really good. So you'll be able to tell pretty quickly who knows what they're talking about. However, you can chat in the pro community support, either with just general questions, technical questions, or chatting with other trial members. We do have a politics channel. And then pre-market prep is live right now, every morning from 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern time. If you're looking just for market commentary, or you're a newer trader looking for education, Joel is fantastic with technical analysis, and Dennis Dick is just one of the best all-around traders that I know of. And they also bring on guest speakers from all different walks of trading. So that's just a huge value there. And there's a chat in right here underneath the live video feed. That's also available for free on YouTube or at premarket.benzinga.com if you want maybe a larger screen or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to hop over to the calendar tool here. I briefly showed you the earnings calendar a minute ago. What I didn't show you is, let's say I want to see who's announcing earnings tomorrow, or all of the results for last week. You would click on this date, and then you could just double click on tomorrow's date, and it'll show me all the results for companies who are scheduled to announce for tomorrow. Excuse me, just one second. Don't want you guys to go deaf while All right, we're back. So yeah, you can change the date range there by double clicking, or you could click in one spot and then click on another date and it'll highlight the whole week. You could also filter by a watch list right here. You can reset all your filters, search for a specific company in the search bar, and there's actually 13 different calendars within this tool. So the default shows you the earnings, but remember, I said earlier, the analyst ratings calendar is actually my favorite way to keep track of analyst ratings on a daily basis. So, if we scroll down here, there's hundreds of analyst actions, right? But I only care about initiations and upgrades personally. And if there's too many, throw in a price target increase as well. So I click on filters. I click on action on security here on the right-hand side. And then I'm going to deselect all of these and just say initiates coverage on. So you'll see that, I'm looking at smaller price per share stocks, but whatever your trading plan is, this can be a very quick way to find actionable catalysts. Maybe there's a strong initiation with a buy rating from a reputable sell side firm. This can and will move the prices of some stocks. Or I could select upgrades instead. We got a few upgrades here. Maybe throw in a price target increase, click on action price target. And here, these are upgrades with a price target increase. We saw, however you say that, CBAY, that came up with the big news yesterday after the close. And then this morning, it looks like two different analysts reacted to that and gave it a nice upgrade with a price target increase. And yeah, you can see here from $4 to $8 and from $2.5 to $6. Also, what's going on here with Pulse Biotech? So yeah, it looks like another coronavirus. Actually, that's a list article. But anyways, they had a strong upgrade right there, and it looks like it's up 2.21% here in the pre-market. So you can see how that could be useful. And then economics calendar. again, here's the importance column on the right-hand side. I usually just show me, all right, what's the 5 out of 5? We've got the core CPI month over month today. So that'll be something to watch for today, as well as other numbers from around the world. And then I don't think we have to go through all of these, but I get a lot of questions about splits. So whether it's reverse split, regular split, you can go to splits calendar, or you click on the news feed and just type in split in the search bar and get all of the split related news. So, or you could also type in reverse split. And there you have it. Like here announces a 1 for 20 reverse stock split. And by the way, there's a bunch of really good search terms just to get you started on our help site. So you can access our help site through this question mark in the upper right corner. And then you could just type in keyword search. What makes a good search term? And here's a nice little starter sheet of some good search terms for healthcare, biotech, ratings. We got some geopolitical, crypto, etc. here. So lots of good things to check out there. Also, I'm gonna get to our unusual options activity calendar in a second here. You could type in options signals, or actually alerts, options alerts. And how do I understand options alerts? So here's a nice cheat sheet showing you what's bullish, what's bearish. Maybe you're newer to options, or it took me a long time to really get that ingrained and understand, you know, at the ask is buying, at the bid is selling, etc. And here's a nice chart of an example of one of these signals, showing you, how to read those. So then, since we're on that, I'll just switch over to unusual options activity, and I have to switch the date to yesterday since we're not trading options yet today.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Sorry, what was that?
I'm sorry, I missed that. How do you get that to that page? How do you understand options page?
Okay, yeah, great question. So see this question mark in the upper right corner?
Yeah.
If you click on that, it'll open up our help site in another tab in your browser. And then in the search bar, on here, you just type in options or options alerts. And you'll see we have some webinars and tutorial videos. And right here is the article, How Do I Understand Options Alerts?
Okay.
By the way, Anne-Marie, I forget how to say her last name, but she is doing a segment of our options boot camp coming up in, I think, a week and a half here. So if you're looking to learn more on options, keep an eye out for the Benzinga Options Boot Camp. It's free to attend, and then they have different packages if you want to purchase recordings, but they'll have beginner, intermediate, and advanced content during that boot camp. So definitely a good opportunity there. And so I'll go back to this cheat sheet here. And guys, we just redid this calendar. My colleague and I, we were going bonkers. We were so excited about this calendar, guys. Just because, we added some really helpful filters. Like here, DTE is days to expiration. You were able before, you could filter before by put or call orders, whether it's a normal trade, or a sweep, where they had to break up one large order into a bunch of smaller orders in order to execute it. Expiration date, you can do it by the size of the order. So let's say I only want to see 5,000 contracts or larger. Then you just go to filters here, filter by size, and say greater than 5,000. And then you'll only see orders larger than 5,000 contracts. Alternatively, I think we all know that not all contracts are priced equally. So instead, you could use total trade value. And so like right here, what is this? This is 1,000. This is 9,200,000 trade value on Boeing. Those are some big boys coming in here. So let's check out total trade price. Let's just say 1 million, right? I mean, that is a big deal. Let me add. So here, these are some big boys playing with big money, and so that's another way you could filter all this down. And now this is a part of our options package, which is an additional $27.97 per month, and you get any discounts applied to that. Say you purchase annually or quarterly, you get those discounts applied to the add-on package as well. So you get this unusual options activity calendar plus the option signals within our signals tool. So here, this opens up to price spikes right away. You get that regardless on the essential package. But here, look at these with these Boeing option alerts from yesterday. Man, pretty wild stuff there. And so this is kind of like similar to that earnings feed I showed you, how you have the live feed on one side of your screen and the filtered calendar on the other side of the screen. This is a great way to do it. So let me know if you have more questions about this, but you also have that cheat sheet on the help site to understand how to read and interpret those signals. I think that pretty much covers the calendar tool. You know, basic same structure. You can add or subtract columns. You can do filters, the date, switch between calendars, and then filter by a watch list. And then on the signals tool here, you know, we've got all these unusual option alerts. You can also say do some block trades. So that's going to be the same thing, but just with stocks instead of options. So these large stock orders. So we already have some coming in this morning. What's going on with PXD here? So it looks like, yeah. So you can see here how there, this business wire item came out, something with convertible senior notes offerings. Okay, Pioneer Natural Resources. So anyways, right after that, we see these block trades come out. So, you know, that could keep you in tune with what's going on with a company. We also have halts and resumes for when exchanges halt or resume trading. We've got opening gaps. And that's a one-time signal right at the open to show any companies that have significant opening gaps. Some people like these. If you're looking for those real-time gappers, remember, you can always use the movers tool in the pre-market to see, you know, update every minute what's moved the most since the previous trading day. So just keep that in mind there. Then we have price spikes. So anytime a company spikes more than 1% within 1 minute, you'll get a signal there, as well as highs or lows. You have 52-week highs, day high series when spiking on volume, or session high. And you really don't want to use session high unless you have it narrowed down to a pretty specific watch list, because you're simply going to get thousands of signals per day and it will bog down your system. But we'll just throw in the 52-week highs, 52-week lows for now. And so this is a great way to keep tabs on the overall market, or you can click on filters. And maybe I just want a certain section of the market. Maybe I want to filter it by sector. I could say I could just do technology. And maybe I also want to filter it by price. You know, larger price per share tech stocks, or I could do it something like $3 to $25. You could do it that way as well. Alternatively, you could also filter by a watch list. So if I just go to add filter, add a watch list, filter it by my movers watch list, and now I could go ahead and turn on all of these, and I'll get alerts anytime something happens with that watch list. Finally, I could click on notifications, and then I've got desktop notification, sound alert, or synthesized voice alert. So that's pretty much the signals tool. And lastly, but not least, we have our screener. So right here, you can basically build a watch list with fundamental or technical parameters. And we just want to make it simple, easy to use. So let's say I'm trading stocks again. Let's stick with, I'm clicking on custom here, but you could also select from these ranges or under or over a certain price point. So let's stick with the $3 to $25 per share option or per share segment. So that'll narrow it down. And then I know lots of people are looking for low float stocks. So you would find low float stocks under fundamental filters. And you've got all of these financial ratios, inside ownership, institutional ownership, and then floats right here at the bottom, say under 10 million shares. So that's that. And then under technical is one of my favorites. You'll notice here you have percent deviations from like average volume, highs, lows, moving averages, VWAP, RSI, and one of my favorites here is relative volume. So I'm going to click on this. If I say over 1.5, that's a multiplier. So it has to be at 50% higher volume than usual for this period compared to the last 90 periods. So look at all these 20 companies trading at 50% higher volume than usual. And so that definitely gives me a lot to look at there. Then you can narrow it down to just your active filters or all filters if you don't want to spend time clicking through each of these sections. Then this is going to refresh manually with this button in the upper right corner, unless you tell it to refresh automatically every 10 seconds or every minute. You could switch it to 1 minute, 1 day, or 1 week. You could download it to a CSV, or you could reset it to the default settings. Which brings up a good point. One last point here. If you want to save your entire layout, now, and by layout, I mean I have 4 workspaces open here, each with different tools and different filters. I can save all of these in one shot by clicking on these 3 dots in the upper right corner and clicking on layouts. And then here you have save layouts at the top. Right here under recent, it says current in blue. And I click on save on the right-hand side. That automatically brings it up to my saved section. I can just say Tuesday morning, and we're good to go. So I don't have to do anything else. Just if I want to revert to these settings right now, I'll just come to this section and then click on load, and that'll be all set. So yeah, we pretty much covered all of the tools here. I just want to open it up for additional Q&A. And while you guys are figuring out any questions, I'll just throw my contact info into the chat as well here. You can always reach me at, let's see here, onboarding at benzinga.com or at 313-221-9214. So just want to make sure you guys get whatever you need.
Thank you. Jonathan, I have a question for you. So I would consider myself a beginner intermediate trader. I'm a trader. I'm looking more to how do I tailor my watch list and my, I guess my screeners to stuff that I like. How is there a training that I can watch that or some article I can read that helps me understand what I will be looking for in stocks that would be good for me to pick or me to look at? Does that make sense?
Right. So are you, do you have a strategy already, or are you trying to maybe refine a strategy?
I'm trying to refine a strategy or, maybe understand a few strategies, then pick one and kind of, own. So I don't have any strategy right now. I'm just looking at stuff that looks good and people talking about.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have a couple webinars I could send you, one on gap and go trading, another on momentum. We also brought in a couple guest speakers like Andy Cole from Mighty Soldier Trades and then the guy who does TT black box trades. So shoot me an email and I'll send you some recordings of those webinars. Or we also have on the help site. If I go back to the main page of the help site here, you'll see past webinars right here. And so like right here, technical analysis with James Mason, how to find low floats in Benzinga Pro, finding and trading gaps with Andy Cole. So these are basically, you know, using Benzinga Pro for different trading strategies.
Okay.
That's a great place to start.
Thank you.
And then the Humbled Trader is a woman on YouTube who does a lot with penny stocks. She uses Benzinga Pro and she uses our SEC filings, reverse splits, things like that as well.
Okay. Yeah, I watched her video. She has good stuff.
Yeah, she's a great communicator. Good question.
Thank you.
Well, for those of you watching the recording, I'll wrap it up to not keep you waiting, but I'll stick around as long as you guys here on the live feed need me to. But for those of you watching the recording, happy trading. We'll be in touch and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much.